The news is filled with stories about violence, murder, sex, and drugs, but there are other stories left untold. They're about men and women who give their time, energy, dreams, and even their lives to make San Francisco a better place. They are everybody's angels.
Hello, I'm Pari Livermore. Welcome to Everybody's Angels, a show about people who are helping people. Today's show is very special to us. We'll be talking about heart disease. Heart disease is our nation's #1 killer. 1 million Americans died last year from heart disease. Today we'll be talking to experts who will be giving us information on how to recognize the disease and what to do about it. We'll also tell you about the Mended Hearts program, and we'll be teaching you how to stay heart healthy. Our first guest is Dr. Richard Podolin, President of the San Francisco chapter of the American Heart Association. Welcome to the show, Dr. Podolin.
Thank you.
And please tell us, what are the warning signs of a heart attack?
Uncomfortable pressure, fullness, squeezing, or pain in the center of the chest, lasting more than a few minutes. Pain spreading to the shoulders, neck, or arms. Chest discomfort with lightheadedness, fainting, sweating, nausea, or shortness of breath.
Now, what about recognizing the signs of a stroke? What are the warning signs of a stroke?
These would be sudden weakness or numbness of the face, arm, or leg in one side of the body. Sudden dimness or loss of vision, particularly in one eye. Loss of speech or trouble talking or understanding speech. Or sudden severe headache with no apparent cause. Or unexplained dizziness, unsteadiness, or sudden falls, especially along with any of the previous symptoms.
Well, if you have one of these symptoms or some of these symptoms, either for heart attack or stroke, doctor, and let's say I'm by myself, what do I do about this? What's important for me to do if I have some of these symptoms?
If you have these symptoms, you should call 911 and have them take you to a hospital immediately. We now have the ability to stop a heart attack or a stroke in progress, but in order to do this and save function and in times even save lives, it's necessary that we get there as quickly as possible, that we start these medications or treatments as rapidly as we can. So get right to the hospital, don't delay.
This is a quick response. And let's say you're with one of your friends or relatives and he or she says, well, look, I'll wait another hour or two to see how I feel. Maybe it's just heartburn. What should we do then?
Really, minutes count.
Yes.
An hour is much, much too long to wait. If you have chest discomfort or any of these symptoms that last more than a few minutes, you should get right to the nearest hospital or emergency room.
Well, isn't it wonderful that they have new medications now and new procedures that they can help people? How long have these procedures actually been in effect, these new procedures?
Well, some of them have been in effect now for more than 15 years. But it's a very dramatic change. Even when I was in training and someone came in with a heart attack or a stroke, we pretty much watched them and hoped that they survived. But now we have the ability to stop these processes right in midstream and at times to reverse them.
That's wonderful. Well, how important is exercise?
Exercise is very important, particularly for the prevention of heart disease. It's one of the major, sedentary lifestyle really, or the lack of exercise is one of the major risk factors. Exercise raises your good cholesterol, it lowers your bad cholesterol, and it not only decreases your risk of getting heart disease, but it improves your chance of surviving should you have a heart attack.
So let's say that it is a different age group. Should I have more exercise, or should everyone have about the same amount of exercise?
Well, younger people certainly can often tolerate more exercise than older people, but exercise is beneficial for everyone, and there's no upper age limit on exercise. Certainly
You're talking about even 80s or
80s and 90s.
Yes.
I have patients in my 90s who are walking 3 times a week or 4 times a week, and it's wonderful for them, and it improves their well-being, it improves their health, and it improves their functioning.
And what would you say is sort of a thumbnail sort of amount of time to exercise every week? How much should we be exercising?
At least 20 minutes 3 times a week, or 20 minutes of continuous exercise.
And this rigorous exercise?
It doesn't have to be enormously rigorous. Certainly if you're a younger person who can exercise more vigorously, that's great. But if you're an older person, walking is wonderful exercise, bicycling, swimming. You don't need to work up a sweat. You don't need to feel exhausted at the end of your session, but you need to move. You need to move continuously for about 20 minutes.
And how important is our diet?
Again, diet is very, very important. We know that in societies where they eat much less fat than we do in our society, heart disease is a rare problem. And yet in our society, it is the #1 killer of both men and women.
Wow. And is a woman protected pretty much until the menopausal years, or no?
Pretty much. Heart attacks can occur prior to menopause, but they're really quite rare. But after menopause, women start to develop blockages in their arteries that can lead to heart attacks, and they catch up with men quite quickly. So it is particularly important for women after menopause to watch all their risk factors, and we also recommend estrogen replacement for women.
What about smoking? How dangerous is that?
It is the #1 risk factor for
#1.
coronary artery disease. Anyone who smokes, the most important thing that they can do for their health to reduce their risk of getting heart disease, of getting stroke, certainly of getting lung disease and of getting cancer, is to quit smoking.
I can understand how smoking would affect something like lung cancer, something like that, but how and why does it affect our heart?
Well, it's really a fairly complicated process that goes on with the introduction of cholesterol into the walls of our blood vessels. The cholesterol builds up blockages in the blood vessels and also causes the muscle in the blood vessel to go into spasm. Smoking encourages the blood vessels to go into spasm. It decreases the size of the blood vessels that feed the heart, and it encourages the cholesterol in our bodies to get into the walls of the blood vessel and to build up in plaques. So really, it affects our heart in many different ways.
And how can we, through our diet, is there any way that we can sort of decrease the amount of cholesterol in our bloodstream?
Yes, the most important thing, interestingly enough, is not the amount of cholesterol you eat, but the amount of saturated fat that you eat. Most of the cholesterol that gets into our blood vessels is actually cholesterol that's produced in our own livers. And the more saturated fat we eat, the more cholesterol our livers will produce.
Now tell us, what is saturated fat for people who don't know? What is saturated
Well,
fat?
the easiest way to recognize it is it tends to be the harder fats, so butter, margarine,
Cheese.
certainly lard, cheese, fats in meat. These are all saturated fats. Whereas the vegetable oils, corn oil or canola oil,
Olive oil?
Olive oil is what's called a monounsaturated fat, and is quite good, relatively good.
Well, the American Heart Association has certainly done so much to help the San Francisco Bay Area and everywhere in the United States, and probably overseas too. Do you have chapters overseas?
Yeah,
You don't know?
I don't know the answer to that. That's a good question.
Wrong question. But I wanted to really thank you for the work that you've done, and I understand you're a volunteer as the president of the American Heart Association. So we've learned so much today, and we want to thank you for all the work that you've done, Dr. Podolin. And we'd like to thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you very much.
We hope you and those around you never have a heart attack or stroke. But if one does occur, you can help minimize complications and perhaps save a life, either your own or someone else's, by recognizing the signs and acting quickly. We'd like to thank all the angels that were guests on our show today, and we'd like to thank you for joining us. I'm Pari Livermore, and on behalf of everyone here at Everybody's Angels, we'd like to remind you, if you can't be everybody's angel, be somebody's angel.